This is the Canons Yeomanes Tale from Theatrum Chemicum Britannicum, compiled into it by Elias Ashmole in the 1650s. It was published. It was written by Geoffrey Chaucer and published in the 1300s. And the image seen in the background of this title is a manuscript that's been illuminated. It's an illuminated manuscript with art and nice style, quality calligraphy. I've decided to try this as a live stream or self-recording with my own face on the screen in a single pass without editing. I've done this before, and we'll see if it works again. I've done this before and made terrible mistakes with the prologue, the audio being very poor quality, and I think the gain is up high enough on this, so works. And I have coffee, and let's do this. Now this time, additionally, I'm a little bit more prepared by having a Middle English dictionary that I've written up myself of words that I had trouble with when I was first reading this through, and it might be good to just tell you what those are. So alphabetically, there's anon. There's a lot of the word anon. It means much, right away, immediately, soon, greatly. It has a vibe of like immediacy. But it also spread the meaning that applies. It spreads out from there. Same with clip, call, eft, again another time. Eft. I think eft. I associate that with after in my head, and it's like after is again, like after the first time. Another. It was the same thing. After time. After is another time. But erst is earnest. Gan is short for began. Began is the process of gan. Began. Gin. Well, it could be gin, but it's short, or it's the substance of it's the root of the word engine, and it also has the meaning of device, design, method, or trick. It is the thing that has, I like the word method, but trick, device, some mechanism. High means hasten. Patral is it's only in there once. It's a breastplate of a horse. Armor. Second, secker, sickerly. That means certain or certainly, assuredly. I don't actually like using the word sickerly or sicker or sicken, so usually I swap it out when I'm in the middle of reading it. I'll just say surely. Tane is a metal bar or rod. I think that's linked to the word tine, which is also a short, tiny metal bar or rod. Totor means torn apart. Tro means trust. Umith, it means scarcely. Yid, Aid means went. Ido means stayed, ended, done, complete, etc. Gefet is fetched. Aith means thrive. Iwis means certainly I know. I wis. I space wis, or I wis with a Y instead of an I. Alright, so I can edit those later, but I want to also note the content of the notes section. Like I've read a bit of the notes for Hermes bird. I want to end Liber Patris Sapientiae, I believe. Yes. Well, page 467, I'll just read a little bit of the notes here. They do go on for 5 pages, which is much more than Hermes bird. And there is a little bit for Liber Patris Sapientiae. The Tale of the Canons Yeoman. This is Elias Ashmole's notes, 1650s. One reason why I selected out of Chaucer's Canterbury Tales that of the Canons Yeoman was to let the world see what notorious cheating there has been ever used under the pretense of this true, although injured, science. Another is to show that Chaucer himself was a master therein. For in this tale Chaucer sets forth the deceits in alchemy to the life, and notably declaims against all such villainous pretenders, who, being wholly ignorant of art, have notwithstanding learnt the cunning to abuse the world. And this pains he took, as himself professeth, merely, quote, to the intent that men may beware thereby, and for no other cause truly. Herein following the precedent of all sincere and conscientious philosophers, then whom the injured world cannot more condemn the abuses of these impostors, that disgrace the art, in that they are continually advising to shun them as spreading infection, and setting out lights and directions that may serve as so many landmarks, if we will but take notice of them, to make us avoid the rocks and fraud of their deceit, which will otherwise split us. The famous art of physic is not more abused with quacking mountebanks, nor that other of astrology more injured by some nibbling sciolists and ignorant jugglers, than this divine science hath suffered by the legerdemain of some pretenders. What though some modern chemists rove beyond the latitude of their profession, being hurried on by a covetous thrift to obtain this arcanum dea, this thesaurus incomparabilis, and by operating in strange matters and torturing of various bodies, bringing disparagement upon this worthy science. Yet we ought not therefore to confound praiseworthy arts with the abuses which impostors shuffle into them, or for the falseness of the corruption of the bad condemn the pure and good. If so, religion itself, as well as other learning and professions, would scarce be exempt from the like blemishes and wounds, if not destroyed and buried in scornful ignorance. This is the misery, and 'tis not ultra caduceum for me to speak it, that there are a generation of people that rush headlong into acquaintance of such men. There's no staving them off, much like the doting idiots which so eagerly courted Chaucer's Canon, after whom, quote, men ridden and gone full many a mile, him for to seek and have acquaintance, not knowing of his false governance. Let philosophers say what they can, and wise men give never so good counsel. No warning will serve. They must be cozened. Nay, they have a greedy appetite thereunto. But it has ever been so. And we are told of old that, quote, many artificers have been over swift with hasty credence to fume away their thrift. Which is from Norton's Ordinal, page 7, which I uploaded to my channel. So strong and powerful a misleader is covetousness. I'm going to read one more of these paragraphs and continue to the main story, the prologue. F. Norton, on page 17 of his Ordinal, describes these cheats exactly and gives as full an account of their subtleties as he dare, for fear of encouraging such as bend their wits that way. G. In Compound of Alchemy, which I've already also read in the chapter of putrefaction, Ripley dissects them to the bone, and scourges them naked to the view of all. The like doth many other philosophers. Bloomfield gives us a catalogue of the chief of this tribe in his time, and I may safely tell the reader he shall gain much benefit by this work, if he pick but out what is said concerning them, and study that first. And here we go. It begins at the end of Hermes' bird with an image that is in a representation by this is actually designed or commissioned by Elias Ashmole, and this is an image of Chaucer's actual grave, his coffin, sarcophagus, and an image of Chaucer himself that it lays in Westminster Abbey. He describes this image later on in the notes at the back, but I'm not going to continue with that. It's just an image of Chaucer's grave in Westminster Abbey. And thus we begin. Now I'm going to not look at my screen with the image of the PDF here, which happens to be a digital scan. I will note this. It says the title of this file is CGJ Theatrum Chemicum Britannicum. This is actually the personally owned copy of Theatrum Chemicum Britannicum, owned by Carl Gustav Jung when he was collecting his renowned library of alchemical works. However, I'm reading from a physical print copy that I have below here that I've made many handwritten notes on for my own sake to make it easier to read. So, the Tale of the Canons Yeoman, written by our ancient and famous English poet Geoffrey Chaucer. The Prologue of the Canons Yeoman. When ended was the life of Saint Cecile, ere we fully had ridden 5 mile, at Bolton under the blue, us gain and take a man that clothed was in clothes black, and under that he had a white surplice. His hackney that was all palmly grease, so sweet that it wonder was to see, it seemed that he had pricked miles 3. The horse ick that his yeoman rode upon, so sweat that Hermes mighty gone, about the patrol stood the foam full high. He was as foam as flecked as a pie. A mail to a fold on his cropper lay. It seemed that he carried little array. All light for summer rode this worthy man, and in my heart wondering I began. All light for summer rode this worthy man, and in my heart wondering I began, what that he was, till I understood how that his cloak was sewed to his hood, for which, when I had long advised me, I deemed him some Canon for to be. His hat hang at his back by a lace, for he had ridden more than a trot or pace. He ride, aye, pricking as he were wood. A clote leaf he had laid under his hood, for sweat and for to keep his head from heat. But it was joy for to see him sweat. His forehead dropped as a stillatory, were full of plantain or peritory. And when he was come, he gan cry, God save, quoth he, this jolly company. Fast have I pricked, quoth he, for your sake, because that I would you overtake, to ridden in this merry company. His yeoman was eke full of courtesy, and said, Sirs, now in the morrow tide, out of your hostry I saw you ride, and warned here my lord and sovereign, which that to riden with you is full fain, for his disport he loveth dalliance. Friend, For thy warning, God give thee good chance. Then said our host, certain it would seem thy lord were wise, and so I may well deem he is full jocund. Also dare I lay, can he aught tell a merry tale or tway, with which he glad may this company? Who, sir, my lord? Yea, without lie, he can mirth and eke of jollity. Not but enough also, sir, trusteth me, and yet him know also well as do I. You would wonder how well and craftily he could the work, and that in sundry wise. He hath taken on him many a great emprise, which were full hard for any that is here to bring about, but they of him it lear. As homely as he rideth among you, if ye him knew, it would be for your prow. You could not forget his acquaintance. For much good I dare lay in balance all that I have in my possession. He is a man of high discretion. I warn you well, he is a passing wise man. Well, quoth our host, I pray thee tell me then, is he a clerk or none? Tell me what he is. A clerk! Nay, greater than a clerk I wis, said the yeoman, and in words few, host of his craft, somewhat will I show. I say my lord can such a subtlety, but of his craft ye may not wit of me, and somewhat help I yet to his working, that all the ground that we be on riding, till we come to Canterbury town, he could all clean turn up and down, and pave it all of silver and of gold. When this yeoman had thus I told unto our host, he said, Benedicti, this thing is wonder and marvellous to me. Since that thy lord is of so high prudence, because of which men should hold him reverence, that of his worship recketh he so light, his overest slop is not worth a mite. As in effect, to him so might I go. It is all bawdry and to Tor also. Why is thy lord so slut-like, I thee pray, and is of power better clothes to buy? If that his deed accord with thy speech, tell me that, and that I be thee beseech. Why, quoth this coman, whereto ask ye me? God help me so, for he shall never I thee. But I will not avow that I say, and therefore keep it secret, I you pray. He is too wise in faith, as I believe, that is overdone will not prove, and right as clerks say, it is a vice, wherefore I hold him in that lewd and nice. For when a man hath over great a wit, full oft it happeth him to misuse in it. So doth my lord, and that me grieveth sore. God amend it. I can say you no more. Thereof no force, good yeoman, quoth our host, since of the cunning of thy lord thou wist. Tell how he doth, I pray thee heartily, since that he is so crafty and so sly. Where dwellen ye, if it to tell be? In the suburbs of a town, quoth he, lurking in the herns and in the lanes blind, where these robbers and thieves by kind holden their privy fearful residence, as they that dare not show in their presence. So fare we, if that I shall say the sooth. Yet, quoth our host, let me talk to thee. Why art thou so discoloured in thy face? Peter, quoth he, God give it hard grace, I am so used in the hot fire to blow, that it hath changed my colour, I trow. I am not wont in no mirror to pry, but swink sore to learn to multiply. We blundern ever and porn in the fire, and for all that we failen of our desire. For ever we lack in our conclusion. To much folk we do illusion, and borrow gold, be it £1 or 2 or 10 or 12 or many sums more, and make him ween that at the last way, that of £1 we could make 2, yet it is false. And we have good hope it for to doon, and after it we grope. But that science is so furious before we mo not, although we had it sworn, it overtake. It flit away so fast, it will us make beggars at the last. While this yeoman was thus in his talking, this Canon drew him near, and heard all thing which this yeoman spake. For suspicion of men's speech ever had this Canon. For Cato saith, he that guilty is, deemeth all thing bespake of him, I wis. Because of that, he gan so nigh to draw to his yeoman to hearken all his saw. And thus he said unto his yeoman, Thou, hold now thy peace, and speak no words more. For if thou do, thou shalt it sore abide. Thou slanderest me here in this company, and eke discoverest that thou shouldest hide. Yea, quoth our host, tell on whatsoever betide, of all his threatening wreck thee not a mite. In faith, quoth he, no more do I, but light. And when this Canon saw it would not be, but his yeoman would tell his privity, he fled away for very sorrow and shame. Ah, quoth the yeoman, here shall rise a game. All that I can, anon will I you tell. Since he is gone, the foul fiend him quell. For never hereafter will I with him meet. For penny nor pound I you beheat. He that me brought first into that game, ere that he die, sorrow have he and shame. For it is earnest to me by my faith, that feel I well whatso any man saith. And yet for all my smart and all my grief, for all my sorrow, labour, and mischief, I could never leave it in no wise. Now would God my wit might suffice to tellen all that longeth to that art. But nevertheless, yet will I tell you apart, since that my lord is gone. I will not spare such thing as I know, I will declare. Here endeth the prologue of the Chanons Yeoman, and here followeth his tale. The prologue is 6 pages. The tale is 24. That is, and it is now 4 more times that length. The tale of the Chanons Yeoman. I'm just going to experiment. Let me just see how well it shows up here. Also, I did note a few other things. There's another... I know there's a word that I missed to put in my thing. PQRS. It's saw. Saw equals speech. It's like another case form of say. All his say. Where he says a few pages back, when the Canon draw nigh, when the Canon because of that he gained nigh, so nigh to draw to his yeoman to hearken all his saw. Yes, and the word saw is used as sort of like all his speech in later on. So saw is sayings, expressions. The tale of the Chanons Yeoman. This is the yeoman speaking. With this canon I dwelt 7 year, and of this science am I never the near. And all that I had I have lost thereby, and God wit so hath many more than I. There I was wont to be right, fresh and gay, of clothing and eke of other good array. Now may I wear an house upon mine head, and where my colour was both fresh and red, now it is wane and of a leaden hue. Whoso it useth, sore shall him rue. And of my swink, yet blared in my eye, lo, which advantage it is to multiply, that slighting science hath me made so bare that I have no good, where that ever I fare. And yet I am indebted so thereby of gold that I have borrowed truly, that while I live I shall it quit never. Let every man beware by me ever. What manner man that causeth him thereto, if he continue, I hold his thrift I do. So help me God thereby, shall he never win, but empty his purse, and make his wits thin. And when he through his madness and folly hath lost his own good through jeopardy, then he exciteth other men thereto, to lose their good, as he himself hath doen. For unto shrews joy it is, and ease, to have their fellows in pain and disease. For thus was I once served by a clerk. Of that no charge. I will speak of our work. When we be there, as we shall exercise our elvish craft, we seamen wonder wise. Our terms being so clergial and so quaint, I blow the fire till mine heart is faint. Read that again. When we be there, as we shall exercise our elvish craft, we seamen wonder wise. Our terms being so clergial and so quaint, I blow the fire till mine heart faint. What should I tell each proportion of things which we worken upon, as on 5 or 6 ounces may well be of silver or some other quantity, and busy me to telling you the names of orpiment, burnt bones, iron squams, that into powder grounden being full small, and in an earthen pot, how put is all. And salt I put in, and also pepper, before these powders that I spake of here. And well I covered with a lump of glass, and of much other thing that there was, and of the pots, and glass and gluting, that of the air might pass out nothing, and of the easy fire, and smart also, which that was made, and of the care and woe that we had in our matters subliming, and in amalgaming, and calcining, of quicksilver yclept, mercury crude, for all our slate we cannot conclude, our orpiment and sublimed mercury. Our ground litharge eke on the porphyry, Of each of these ounces a certain naught helpeth us. Our labor is in vain. Nay, eke our spirit's ascension. Nay, yet our matters that lien all fixed down. More in our working nothing avail, for lost is our labor and our travail, and all the cost. A 20 devil away is lost also, which we upon it lay. There is also full many another thing that is to our craft appertaining, though I by order of them ne rehearse can, because that I am a lewd man. Yet will I tell them as they come to mind, though I ne can set them in their kind, as bowl ammoniac, verdigris, boras, and sundry vessels made of earth and glass, our urinals and our dispensaries, vials, crosslets, and sublimatories, concubites and alembics, eke, and other such dear enough to a leak. It needeth not to rehearse them all. Waters rebufying, and bowls, gall, arsenic, sal ammoniac, and brimstone, and herbs, could I tell eke many one, as ergemony, valerian, and lunary, and other such, if that me list to tarry. Our lamps burning both night and day, to bring in about our craft, if that we may, our fornicae each calcination, and of our waters albification, unslecked lime, chalk, and glare of an eye, powders diverse, ashes, dung, piss, and clay, seared pockets, saltpeter and vitriol, and divers fires made of wood and coal, salt tartar, alkali, and salt preparate, and combust matters, and coagulate, clay made with horse dung, man's hair, and oil, of tartar, alum, glass, barum, wort, and argoil, reselger, and other matters imbibing, and eke of our matters incorporing, and of our silver citronation, our cementing, and eke fermentation, our ingots, tests, and many more. I will you tell, as was me taught also, the 4 spirits, and the bodies 7, by order as oft I heard my lord Laymen. The first spirit quicksilver clept is, the second orpiment, the third awis ammoniac, the 4th brimstone. The bodies 7, eke lo hiram anon, soul gold is, and Luna silver we thrape, Mars iron, Mercury quicksilver we clape, Saturnus lead, and Jupiter is tin, and Venus copper, by my father kin. This cursed craft, whoso will exercise, he shall no good have, that may him suffice. For all the good he spendeth thereabout, he lose shall thereof, have I no doubt. Whoso that listen to utter his folly, let him come forth and learn to multiply. And every man that hath aught in his coffer, let him appear, and wax a philosopher. Askance that craft is so light for to leer. Nay, God wit all, be he monk or friar, priest or canon, or any other wight. Though he sit at his book both day and night, in learning of this elvish nice lore, all is vain, all is in vain, and pardon much more. Much more is, all is in vain, and pardon much more, is to leer a lewd man this subtlety. Fie, speak not thereof, it will not be. All could he lecture, or could he none, as in effect he shall find it all all one. For both two by my salvation, concluded in multiplication, I like well when they have all I do. This is to say, they fail in both too. Yet forget I much rehearsal of waters corrosive and limeal, and of bodies' mollification, and also of their induration, oils, ablutions, metals fusible. To tell you all would pass any Bible of all these names. Now will I rest. For as I trow I have you told know, to raise a fiend, all look he never so row. And nay, let be the philosopher's stone. Elixir clept, we seeken fast each one. For had we him, then we were certain, I know, but unto God of heaven I make a vow, for all our craft, when that we have all ado, and all our sleight, he will not come us to. He hath made us spend much good. For sorrow of which almost we waxed would, but that good hope creepeth in our heart, supposing ever though we sore smart, to been relieved by him afterward, supposing, and hope is sharp and hard. I warn you well, it is to certain ever, that future temps hath made men discover in truth thereof all that ever they had, yet of that art they could not wax sad, for unto him it is better sweet. So seemeth it, for nay had they but a sheet. So seemeth it, for nay had they but a sheet, which that they might wrappen them in at night, and a brate to walk in at daylight. They would them sell and spend it on this craft. They cannot stint, till nothing be left. And evermore where that ever they gon, men may them ken by smell of brimstone. For all the world they stinken as a goat. For their Saviour is so remish and so hot, that though a man a mile from him be, the savour will infect him, trusteth me. Lo! Thus by smelling and by threadbare array, if that men list this folk, know they may. And if a man will ask him privily, why they be clothed so unthriftily, right anon they will roan in his ear, and sayin if they espied where, men will them flee because of her science. Lo, thus these folk betrayen innocence. Pass over this, I go my tale unto. Ere that the pot be on the fiery dough of metals with a certain quantity, my lord hath tempereth, and no man but he. Now he is gone, I dare say boldly, for as men say, he can done craftily. Algate, I wit well he hath such a name, and yet full oft he reigneth in the blame, and wit ye how full oft it happeneth so. The pot to breaketh, and farewell, all is go. These metals being of so great violence, our walls may not make them resistance. But if they were wrought of lime and stone, they present so, and through the wall they go, and some of them sinking into the ground. Thus have we lost by times many a pound. And some are scattered all the floor about, some leaping into the roof without doubt. Though that the fiend not in our sight him show, I trow that he with us be, that ilk shrew. In hell, where that he is Lord and Sire, nay, is there no more woe, ne anger, ne ire. When that our pot is broke, as I have said, every man chide and hold him evil apaid. Some said it was long ere of the fire making. Some said, nay, it was on the blowing. Then was I afraid, for that was mine office. Straw, quoth the third, ye been lewd and nice. It was not tempered as it ought to be. Nay, quoth the fourth, stint, and hearken me, because our fire was not made of beech. That is the cause, and none other so teach. I cannot tell whereon it is along, but well I wit great strife is us among. What? Quoth my lord, there is no more to do. Of these peril I will beware. Oft soon I am right certain that the pot was crazed. Be as be may, be ye not amazed. As usage is, let's sweep the floor as swithe. Pluck up your heart, and be glad and blithe. The mullock on the heap I swept was, and on the floor cast a canvas, and all this mullock in a sieve I throw, and I sifted, and I plucked many a throw. Pard, quoth one, somewhat of our metal. Yet is there here, though we have not all, and though this thing misshapen hath as now, another time it may been well, I know. We might put our good in adventure. A merchant party may not I endure, trusteth me well in his prosperity. Sometime his good is drowned in the sea, and sometimes it cometh safe unto the land. Peace, quoth my lord, the next time I will find, to bring our craft all in another plight. And but I do, sirs, let me have the white. There was default in somewhat, well I wot. Another said the fire was over hot. But be it hot or cold, I dare say this, that we concluded ever more amiss. We failen of that which we would have. In our madness evermore we rave. And when we being together, every man seemeth as wise as Solomon. But all thing which that seemeth as the gold is not gold, as I have here told. Nay, every apple that is fair at eye is not good, whatso men clap or cry. Right so it fareth among us, that he that seemeth the wisest by Jesus is most fool when it cometh to the proof, and he that seemeth truest is a thief. That shall ye know ere that I from you waned, by that I of my tale have made an end. There was a canon. Note, I'm going to interrupt the story here. The printer of Theatrum Chemicum Britannicum accidentally missed a line in the printing press design, and all prints of the book are missing this line, but it is noted in the errata at the back of the book, the last page. Thus I've written it in here on my handwritten notes. Thus the narrator, the Chanons Yeomanes, continues. There was a canon of religion among us, would infect all a town, though it as great were as Nineveh, Rome, Alexandria, Troy, and other three. His sleight and his infinite falseness there could no man written, as I guess, though that he might live 1,000 year, and all this world of falseness nay his peer. For in his terms he will him so wind, and keep his words in so sly a kind, when he commune shall with any wight, that he will make him dote anon right. But it a fiend be as himself is, full many a man hath he beguiled ere this, and more will, if that he may live a while. And yet men, ridden and gone full many a mile, him for to seek and have acquaintance, not knowing of his false governance. And if ye lust to give me audience, I will it tellen here in your presence. But, worshipful canons religious, nay deemeth not that I slander your house, although my tale of a canon be. Of every order some shrew is parted, and God forbid that all a company should rue a single man's folly. To slander you is not mine intent, but to correct that miss is meant. This tale was not only told for you, but eke for other more. I wot how that among Christ's apostles 12 there was no traitor but Judas himself. Then why should the remnant have blame, that guiltless were? By you I say the same, save only this, if you will hearken me. If any Judas in your covent be, removeth him the time I you read. And if shame or loss may cause any dread, and be nothing displeased, I you pray, but this case hearkeneth what I say. But in this case hearkeneth what I say. This begins the final section, or the final story of the Yeoman, before he continues on with before he ends with his traveling with the host, the group. In London was a priest, annualier, that therein had dwelt many a year, which was so pleasant and so serviceable unto the wife where he was at table, that she would suffer him nothing to pay. For board ne clothing went he never so gay, and spending silver had he right, I know. There was no force. I will proceed as now, and tell forth my tale of the Canon that brought this priest to confusion. This false Canon came upon a day unto this priest's chamber where he lay, beseeching him to loan him a certain of gold, and he would quite him again. Loaneth me a mark, quoth he, but days 3, and at my day I will quit it thee, and if it so be that thou find me false, another day hang me by the halls. This priest took him a mark, and that swathe, and this canon him thanked oft sight, and took his leave, and went forth his way, and at his 3rd day brought his money. And to this priest he took this gold ane, whereof this priest was glad and fain. Certes, quoth he, nothing annoyeth me to lend a man a noble 2 or 3, or what thing were in my possession, when he so true is of condition, that in no wise he break will his day. To such a man I can never say nay. What, quoth this canon? What, quoth this canon, should I be untrue? Nay, that were a thing fallen of new. Truth is a thing that will ever I keep unto the day in which I shall creep into my grave, or else God forbade. Believeth this as certain as your creed. God thank I, and in good time be it said, that there was never man yet evil I paid, for gold ne silver that he to me lent, he never falsehood in mine heart I meant. I'm going to read that again. What? quoth this canon, should I be untrue? Nay, that were a thing fallen of new. Truth is a thing that will ever I keep, unto the day in which I shall creep into my grave, or else God forbid. Believeth this as certain as your creed. God thank I, and in good time be it said, that there was never man yet evil I paid, for gold ne silver that he to me lent, nay, never falsehood in mine heart I meant. And, sir, quoth he, now of my privity, since ye so good-like have been to me, and crave to me so great gentleness, somewhat to quate with your kindness, I will you show, if you wilt it lear, I shall it show you anon right here, how I can work in philosophy. Taketh good heed ye shall it see with your eye, that I will don a mystery, or I go. Yea, sir, quoth the priest, and will ye so? Marry, thereof I pray you heartily. At your commandment, sir, truly, quoth this canon, and else God forbade. Lo, how this, lo, I have to get that right there. Yea, sir, quoth the priest, and will ye so? Marry, thereof I pray you heartily. At your commandment, sir, truly, quoth the canon, and else God forbade. Lo, how this thief could thee his service bade. Full sooth it is that such proffered service stinketh, as witnesseth the old wise. And that full soon I will it verify, in this canon wrote of all treachery, that evermore delight hath and gladness, such fiendly thoughts in his heart impress, how Christ's people he may to mischief bring. God keep us from his false dissimuling. What wist this priest, and with whom that he dealt? Nay, of his harm coming nothing he felt. O silly priest, O silly innocent! With covetous anon thou shalt be blent. O graceless, full blind is thy conceit. Nothing art thou aware of his deceit. Which that this fox hath shapen to thee, his wily wrenches thou mayest not flee. Wherefore to go to thy conclusion, that referreth to thy confusion. Unhappy man, anon I will me hie, to tell thine unwit, nay, thy folly, and eke the falseness of that other wretch, as far forth as my cunning will stretch. This canon was my lord, you would ween, sir host, in faith, and by the heaven queen. It was another canon, and not he. That can 100-fold more subtlety he hath betrayed folk many a time. Of his falseness it doth me to rhyme. Ever when I speak of his falsehood, for shame of him my cheeks waxen red. All gates they beginnen for to glow. For redness have I none right well I know in my visage, for fumes diverse of metals which ye have heard me rehearse, consumed and wasted hath my redness. Now take heed of this canon's cursedness. Sir, quoth he to the priest, set your man gone for quicksilver, that we had it anon, and let him bring ounces 2 or 3. And when he cometh, as fast shall ye see a wonder thing, which ye saw never ere this. Sir, quoth the priest, it shall be done, I wis. he bade his servant fetch him this thing, and he already was at his bidding, and went him forth, and came anon again with this quicksilver shortly for to saying, and took these ounces 3 to the Canon. And he him said, Well, and fair adown, and bade the servant coals for to bring, that he anon might go to his working. The coals right anon were fetched, and this Canon took out a crosselet of his bosom, and showed it to the priest. This instrument, quoth he, which thou seest, take in thy hand, and put thyself therein of this quicksilver an ounce, and begin, in the name of Christ, to wax a philosopher. There be full few which I would it prefer, to show him this much of my science, for here shall ye see by experience that this quicksilver I will mortify, and will make it as good silver and as fine as there is any in your purse or mine, or elsewhere, and make it malleable, or else hold me false and unstable amongst folk ever to appear. I have a powder that cost me dear, shall make all good, for it is cause of all my cunning, which I you shall. Voideth your man, and let him be thereout, and shut the door, whilst we been about our privity, that no man us espy, whiles that we worken in our philosophy. All as he bade fulfilled was indeed. This ilk servant anon out yede, and his master shut the door anon, and to their labour speedily they gone. And to their labour speedily they gone. This priest, at this cursed Canon's bidding, upon the fire anon set this thing, and blew the fire, and busied him full fast. And this Canon into this crosslet cast a powder, I not whereof it was, made, either of chalk, earth, or glass, or somewhat else, was not worth a fly to blind with this priest, and bade him hie these coals for to couchen all above the crosslet, for in token that I thee love. Quoth this Canon, Thine hands too shall work all thing that here shall be due. Grant mercy, quoth the priest, and was full glad, and couched coals as the Canon bade. And while he busy was, this fiendly wretch, this false Canon, the foul fiend him fetch, out of his bosom take a beechen coal, in which full subtlety was made an ole, and therein was put of silver lemeal an ounce, and stopped was without fail the whole with wax to keep the lemeal in. And understandeth that this false gin was not made there, but it was made before, and other things that I shall you tell more hereafter, that which he with him brought, ere he came there to beguile him, he thought. And so he did, ere they went atwine. Till he had turned him, could he not blind? It dulleth me when that I of him speak, of his falsehood, fain would I me wreak, if I wist how, but he is here and there, he is so variant, he bideth nowhere. But taketh heed, sirs, now for God's love, he took his coal, of which I spake above, and in his hand he bare it privily, and whiles the priest couched busily the coals, as I told you ere this Canon said, Friend, Ye done amiss. This is not couched as it ought to be. But soon I shall amend it, quoth he. Now let me meddle therewith but a while, for I of you have pity, by Saint Giles. Ye been right hot. I see well how ye sweat. Here, have here a cloth, and wipe away the wet. And while the priest him wiped haste, this Canon took the coal I shrew his face, and laid it aboven upon the midward of the crosslet, and blew well afterward, till that the coals gone fast burn. Now give us drink, quoth this Canon then. As withe all shall be well, I undertake. Sit we down, and let us merry make. And when this Canon's beechen coal was burnt, all the lemeal out of the hole into the crosslet anon fell adown. And so it must needs by reason, since it so even above couched was. But thereof wist the priest nothing, alas. He deemed all the coals like good, for of the sleight nothing he understood. And when this alchemister saw his time, Riseth up, Sir Priest, quoth he, and standeth by me. And for I wit well ingot have I none. Go thee walketh forth, and bring a chalk stone. For I will make it of the same shape that an ingot is, if I may have hape. And bring ick with you a bowl or a pan full of water, and you shall see then how that our business shall hap and prove. And yet, for ye shall have no misbelief, ye nay wrong conceit of me in your absence, I will not be out of your presence, but go with you, and come with you again. The chamber door shortly disdain, they opened and shut, and went forth their way. And forth with them they carried the key, and coming again, without any delay. What, should I tarry all the long day? He took the chalk, and shape it in the wise of an ingot, as I shall you devise. I say, he took out of his own sleeve a tane of silver, evil might he chieve, which that was but an ounce of weight, and taketh heed now of his cursed sleight. He shaped this ingot in length and in breadth of the tane without any dread, and so slyly that the priest it not espied, and in his sleeve again he gan it hide, and from the fire took up his matter, and into the ingot it put with merry cheer, and into the water vessel he it cast, when that him list, and bade the priest as fast, Look what there is, put in thy hand and grope, thou shalt find there silver as I hope. What devil of hell should it else be? Shaving of silver, silver is party. He put in his hand and took up a tane of silver fine, and glad in every vein was this priest when he saw it was so. God's blessing and his mother's also, and all hallows have ye, Sir Canon, said this priest, and I hear malison. Also, I say, said this priest, and I hear malison. But an ye vouchsafe to teach me this noble craft and this subtlety, I will be yours and all that ever I may. Quoth the Canon, I'm going to read that again just because I missed the page. Page scrolling here. Let me read that all. Rewind. Or no, I'll read it from the Canon. Look what there is. Put in thine hand and grope. Thou shalt find there silver as I hope. What devil of hell should it else be? Shaving of silver, silver is party. He put in his hand and took up a tane of silver fine. And glad in every vein was this priest when he saw it was so. God's blessing, and his mother's also, and all hallows have ye, Sir Canon, said this priest. And I hear malison. But, and ye vouchsafe to teach me this noble craft, and this subtlety, I will be yours in all that ever I may. Quoth the Canon, Yet will I make essay the second time, and ye more take heed, and being expert of this, and in your need, another day essay in mine absence this discipline and this crafty science. Let take another ounce, quoth he, thou, of quicksilver, withouten words more, and done therewith as I have done ere this, with that other, which that now silver is. This priest him busieth in all that he can, to do as the Canon, this cursed man, commanded him, and fast blew the fire, for to come to the effect of his desire. And this Canon, right in the meanwhile, already was this priest eft to beguile, and for a countenance in his hand bear an hollow stick, take, keep, and beware, in thend of which an ounce and no more of silver lemeal put was, as before, was in his coal, and stopped with wax will, for to keep in his lemeal every deal. And whiles this priest was in his business, this Canon with his stick gan him dress to him anon, and his powder cast in. As he did erst, the devil out of his skin him torn, I pray to God for his falsehood, for he was ever false in thought and deed, and with this stick above the crosslet, that was ordained with that falsity, he stirreth the coals till all relent gan, the wax again, the fire, as every man. But he a fool be, wit well it might need, and all that in the hole was out yeed, and into the crosslet hastily it fell. The priest supposed nothing but well, but busied him fast, and was wonder fain, supposing naught but truth, sooth to saying. He was so glad that I cannot express in no manner his mirth and his gladness. And to the Canon he proffered eft soon, body and good. Yea, quoth the Canon, anon, though I be poor, crafty thou shalt me find. I warn thee yet, is there more behind? Is there any copper here within? Said he. I skipped that. Let me read that again. As he did erst. I like this part where the narrator, the Chanons Yeoman, is getting very heated and angry about... I've noted a few places in my handwritten notes where he gets angry. That's why I get to the characterization of the narrator. The Chanons Yeoman is not happy with this canon, this other canon. And whiles this priest was in his business, this Canon with his stick gan him dress to him anon, and his powder cast in, as he did erst, the devil out of his skin, for him torn. I pray to God for his falsehood, for he was ever false in thought and deed. And with his stick above the crosslety that was ordained, with that falsity he stirreth the coals, till all relent again the wax, again the fire, as every man, but he a fool be, wit well it might need, and all that in the whole was out yede. And into the crosslet hastily it fell. The priest supposed nothing but well, but busied him fast, and was wonder fain, supposing naught but truth. Sooth to sayn, he was so glad that I cannot express in no manner his mirth and his gladness. And to the Canon he proffered eft soon body and good. Yea, quoth the Canon, anon, though I be poor, craftily thou shalt me find. I warn thee, yet is there more behind. Is there any copper here within? Said he. Yea, sir, quoth the priest, I trow there be. Else go buy some, and that as swithe. Now, good sir, go forth thy way and hide. He went his way, and with the copper he came, and this Canon in his hand it name, and of that copper weighed out but an ounce. All too simple is my tongue to pronounce, as to minister by my wit the doubleness of this Canon, root of all cursedness. He seemed friendly to him that knew him not, but he was fiendly both in work and thought. It wearieth me to tell of his falseness, and nevertheless yet will I it express, to the intent that men may beware thereby, and for none other cause truly. He put this ounce of copper into the crosslet, and on the fire, as swithe he hath it set, and cast in powder, and made the priest to blow, and in his working for to stoop low, as he did erst, and all nis but a jape, right as him list, the priest he made his ape, and afterward in the ingot he it cast, and in the pan put it at the last of water, and in he put his own hand, and in his sleeve, as ye by beforehand heard me tell, he had a silver tane. He slyly took it out, this cursed hane, unwitting this priest of his false craft, and in the pan's bottom he hath it left, and in the water rumbleth to and fro, and wonder privately took up also the copper tane, not knowing this priest, and hid it, and hent him by the brist, and to him spake, and thus said in his game, Stoopeth down, by God, ye be to blame. Helpeth me now, as I did you whileere. Put in your hand, and looketh what is there. This priest took up this silver tane anon, and then said the Canon, Let us gon with these 3 tanes which we han wrought to some goldsmith, and wit if it be aught, for by my faith I could not for my hood, but if it were silver fine and good, and that as swithe well proved shall be. Unto the goldsmith with these tanes 3 they went, and put them in assay. To fire and hammer might no man say nay, but they were as them ought for to be. This sordid priest, who was gladder than he, was never Bird gladder against the day, ne nightingale against the season of May. Was never none that list better to sing, ne lady lustier in carolling, for to speak of love and womanhood, ne knight in arms to done a hearty deed, to stand it in grace of his lady dear, then had this priest, this craft to leer. And to the Canon thus he spake and said, For the love of God, that for us all died, and as I may deserve it unto you, what shall this receipt cost? Telleth me now. By Our Lady, quoth this Canon, it is dear, I warn you well, save I and a frere. In England there can no man it make. No force, quoth he. Now, sir, for God's sake, what shall I pay? Tell me, I you pray. I wis, quoth he, it is full dear, I say. Sir, at one word, if that ye list it have, ye shall pay £40, so God me save, and near the friendship that ye did ere this, to me ye should pay more, I wis. This priest, the sum of £40 anon of nobles fetched, and so, read that again. The sum of £40 may not be much in the 20th and 21st century relative to living. £40, but this is the 17th century. No, pardon me. This is the 14th century, the 1300s. So it's like 700 years ago. So 700 years of inflation, whatever £40 is then to now. Now, that's me being tired, and I need a drink. This priest the sum of £40 anon of nobles fetched, and took them every one to this canon for this ilk receipt. All his working was fraud and deceit. Sir priest, he said, I keep for to have no loss of my craft, for I would it were kept close, and as you love me, keepeth it secret. For and men know all my subtlety, by God, men would have so great envy to me by cause of my philosophy, I should be dead. There were no other way. God it forbid, quoth the priest, what ye say. Yet had I rather spend all the good which that I have, or else wax I would, than that ye should fallen in such mischief. For your good will have you right good proof. Quoth the Canon, and farewell, grant mercy. He went his way, and never the priest him say, after that day, and when that this priest should make an essay at such time as he would of this receipt, farewell it could not be. Lo, thus bejaped and beguiled was he. Thus maketh he his introduction to bring folk to their destruction. Considereth, sirs, how in each estate betwixt men and gold is debate, so far forth, that unless there is none, this multiplying blindeth so many one, that in good faith I trow that it be the greatest cause of such scarcity. I'm going to read that again. Considereth, sirs, how in each estate betwixt men and gold is debate so far forth, that unless there is none, this multiplying blind is so many one, that in good faith I trow that it be the greatest cause of such scarcity. These philosophers speaking so mistily in this craft that men cannot come thereby, for any wit that men have nowadays, they may well chatter and jangle as doth the jays, and in their terms set their lust and pain. But to their purpose shall they never attain. A man may lightly learn, if he have aught, to multiply and bring his good to naught. Lo, such a lucre is in this lusty game. A man's mirth, it will turn all to grame, and empty and also great and heavy purses, and maken folk to purchase curses of them that have also their good alent. O fie for shame! They that have been burnt, alas, cannot they fly the fire's heat. Yea, that it usen, I read that ye it leet, lest ye losen all. For better than never is late. Never to thrive were too long a date. Though that ye prolly eye, ye shall it never find. Ye been as bold as is Bard the blind, that blundereth forth, and peril casteth none. He is as bold to rein against a stone, as for to go beside in the way. So faren ye that multiply, and I say, if that your eyne can not see aright, look that your mind lack not his sight. For though ye look never so broad and stare, ye shall not win a mite in that affair, but waste all that ye may reap and rain. Withdraw the fire, lest it to fast burn. Meddleth with that art no more, I mean. For if ye done, your thrift is gone full clean. And right as swithe, I will tellen you here what that philosophers sayin in this matter. Lo, thus saith Arnold of the new tune. Of his rosary maketh mention. He saith right thus, without any lie, there may no man Mercury mortify, but if it be with his brother's knowledging. Lo, how that he which first said this thing of philosophers, father was, Hermes. He saith how that the dragon, doubtless, ne dieth not, but if he be slain with his brother, and this is for to sayn, by the dragon Mercury, and none other, he understood that brimstone was his brother. That out of Sol and Luna were a draw, and therefore, said he, take heed to my saw. And therefore, said he, take heed to my saw. Let no man busy him this art for to seek, but that he the intention and speech of philosophers understand can. And if he do, he is a lewd man. For this science and this cunning, quoth he, is of the secret of secrets party. Also there was a disciple of Plato, that one a time said his master to, as his book senior will bear witness, and this was his demand in soothfastness. Tell me the name of the privy stone. And Plato answered unto him anon, take the stone that Titanos men name. Which is that? Quoth he. Magnetia is the same, said Plato. Yes, sir, and is it thus? That is ignotium per ignotius. What is magnetia, good sir, I you pray? It is a water that is made, I say, of elements four, quoth Plato. Tell me the roots, good sir, quoth he though. of that water, if it be your will. Nay, nay, quoth Plato, certain that I nil. The philosophers were I sworn each one that they should discover it unto none. Nay, in no book it write, in no manner. For unto Christ it is so lief and dear, that he will not that it discovered be, but where it liketh to his deity. Man to inspire, and eke for to defend, when that him liketh. Lo, this is his end. Then conclude I thus, since the God of heaven ne will not that the philosophers namen, how that a man shall come unto this stone, I read as for the best, let it go. For who so maketh God his adversary, as for to work anything in contrary unto his will, certes never shall he thrive, though that he multiply terms of his life. And there a point, for ended is my tale. God send every true man boot of his veil. And that is the tale of the Chanons Yeoman. Written by our ancient and famous English poet, Geoffrey Chaucer. Let's see if there's anything interesting at the back. Any more to say? Got rhyming on the brain. Okay. So we covered the points about men riding in full gaunt. Let's see here. I stopped right about here, near the bottom of this page. Page 468. Let's go back up to midway. This is the mystery. This is the misery, and 'tis not ultra caduceum for me to speak it, that there are a generation of people that rush headlong into the acquaintance of such men. There's not staving them off, much like the doting idiots, which so eagerly courted Chaucer's Canon, after whom, quote, men ridden and gone full many a mile, for him for to seek, and have acquaintance, not knowing of his false governance. Let philosophers say what they can, and wise men give never so good counsel, no warning will serve. They must be cozened. Nay, they have a greedy appetite thereunto. But it has ever been so. And we are told of old that, quote, many artificers have been over swift with hasty credence to fume away their thrift. Unquote. That's from Ordinal, page 7. So strong and powerful is a misleader. A misleader is covetousness. Norton describes these cheats exactly on page 17 of the Ordinal of Alchemy. And that again is on my YouTube channel. And give as full an account of their subtleties as he dare. For fear of encouraging such as bend their wits that way. G note, chapter on putrefaction. Ripley dissects them to the bone and scourgeth them naked to the view of all. The like doth many other philosophers. Bloomfield gives us a catalogue of the chief of this tribe in his time, and I may safely tell the reader he shall gain much benefit by this work. That would be Bloomfield's Blossoms. That's later on, I believe, in this. There's maybe multiple works by Bloomfield in this, but I think Bloomfield also had another set of works that are not in Theatrum Chemicum Britannicum. If you pick out what is said concerning them and study that first. In some dark passages, 'tis as great a courtesy to be taught to know blocks as to be directed which way to avoid and getting beyond them, and being so thank Ripley for this his following cautionary advice. Also from chapter of Putrefaction. Beware therefore for thesis sake, and meddle with nothing of great cost, for and thou do, it is but lost. Also Norton from Ordinal page 126. Cease, Laymen, cease. Be not in lewdness ever. Lewdness to leave is better late than never. I wish I could say this age, this nation, the world, were not allured and infected with the serene notes of some grand and notable impostors, or that the too credulous had not met with the same misfortune which story tells us others have undergone, even to ruin. Yet to those that have been decoyed into the snare, and would gladly for the future pursue a more hopeful course, let them hear Richard Carpenter, which is Carpenter's works. Note, advise thee well, ere thou begin, or else little shalt thou win. It's a little bit hard to read that ancient font, or whatever you call that font, and it's tiny on my screen. And with him, from this tale, Chaucer says, if that your eyne cannot see right, looketh that your mind lack not his sight. And again, let no man busy him this art to seek, but he that the intention and speech of the philosophers understand can. And if he do, he is a lewd man. I like that line, but it's got a comma there that you have to put into another voice. Let no man busy him that this art to seek, but he that the intention and speech of the philosophers understand can. And if he do, he is a lewd man. For this science and cunning, quod he, is of the secret of secrets party. And that also references Arnold de Villanova. I think I'm going to pause or end this story. I can continue on with the notes here. They do keep going. They keep going for several more pages until Destin's Dream. I could, but I mean, does it? The story is the story, and it is more. I'll wrap up. I'll just skim to the bottom of the notes to just make it feel like I tied it off. He concludes discussing on the note, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, about here we go. This is speaking of sort of a biographical account of Chaucer himself. For indeed in his time all good letters were laid asleep in most parts of the world, and in England our tongue was exceedingly wild and rude. Yet, though that through his refining and polishing it became more sweet and pleasant, in which regard he is styled the first finder of our fair language. He spent many of his years in France and Flanders. Several preferences he had at court, I can't even tell what that word is. He had at court, for he was blah, 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 blah. He died at London, 25th of October, 1400, as appears by the inscription upon his tomb at St. Peter's in Westminster Abbey, in an aisle on the south side of the church. Mr. Nicholas Brigham built this marble monument to his memory, the true portraiture whereof I have caused to be exactly engraved in brass and placed on page 226. There was formerly round the ledge of the tomb these following verses, but now no remainder of them left. Si rogatis quis eram Forsen te fama decebis, quod si fama negat, mundi quia gloria transit, haec monumenta late. The picture of Chaucer's, now somewhat decayed, but the graver has recovered it, after a principle left to posterity by his worthy scholar Thomas Occleve, who hath also these verses upon it. And though his life be quite the resemblance of him hath, let's see if I can maximize this. And though his life be quaint in the resemblance of him hath in me so stress that to put other men in remembrance of his person, I have here the ines to make. Likeness. I have here the likeness do make to this end, in soothfastness, that they that have of him lost thought and mind by this picture may again him find. That's very nice. Well, I'm glad I read that. Before Mr. Brigham built the aforesaid monument, it seems Chaucer had a stone laid over his grave, upon which was engraved this following epitaph: Galfredus Chaucer vatis et fama poesis materna hac secra sum tumulatus humo. And that is the end. That is the end where I will leave it. There is much more to be learned and revisiting and all of the notes, but this is part of the Theatrum Chemicum Britannicum in my recording series. Thank you.